For the first time since NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang and Meta Platform CEO Mark Zuckerberg made comments about the quantum computing industry, the Rigetti Computing investor CEO had a chance to retaliate, had a chance to respond to those comments. So, what did the Rigetti Computing CEO say in response to NVIDIA and Meta Platform CEOs? That's what we'll talk about in this video and what it could mean for Rigetti stock investors. So let's take a look.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So during an investor conference on January 14th, the Rigetti Computing CEO was asked that question, what's your response to what Mark Zuckerberg said and what Jensen Huang said about the usefulness of quantum computers? And the CEO of Rigetti Computing said, I hate to get into those subjective, vague words, particularly going with someone like Jensen Huang or Mark Zuckerberg, whose microphone is a lot bigger than any of us here in the room. Which is true, right? If you think about NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, his microphone, his voice has a lot more influence than anybody at Rigetti Computing. Similarly with Mark Zuckerberg, right? The CEO of Meta Platforms. These are trillion-dollar companies we're talking about, and quantum with hundreds of thousands of, I shouldn't say hundreds of thousands, but tens of thousands of employees, and you're comparing them with Rigetti, who doesn't even have 1,000 employees. So you've got a really different size and scale here, and that's why when Jensen Huang and Mark Zuckerberg made those comments about quantum computing's usefulness, you saw the whole industry move. You saw stock prices fall and crash for several quantum computing stocks, even though they were just off-the-cuff remarks from these CEOs. So in response to that, the CEOs of NVIDIA and Meta Platform said that we're, at least 10, 15, 20 years away from useful quantum computers. And so in response to that comment, are we really that long away from useful quantum computers? And so the CEO of Rigetti said, instead of talking about that, we can talk about our milestones, technical milestones. That's what's important. Fidelity, right? We can talk about qubit count, gate speed, and other metrics, things that are achievable in the near term so that we can make progress and demonstrate progress. So the CEO saying that in a couple of years, I'm pretty sure we'll be at a few hundred qubits at 99.7%, 99.8% fidelity, maybe 30, 40 nanosecond gauge speed. Remember, Alphabet's announcement with the Willow quantum computing chip was already at 99.7% fidelity, and Rigetti is already at 99.5% fidelity. So these are milestones that the company can hit, and at that point in time, they can get more money from investors and then make progress towards the next milestone. And after hitting these milestones, there can be increased research and development, increased experimentation to see, the usefulness of these technologies. The CEO goes on to say, we think that would be good enough to start demonstrating what we call narrow quantum advantage, which is demonstrating superiority with the quantum computing over classical computing for some select applications. So another couple of years later, so in total, the Rigetti Computing CEO saying that in 3 to 5 years from now, when we start approaching the 1,000 qubit at 99.8% fidelity, with surfaced error codes that we just talked about, we think we will be able to demonstrate quantum advantage, quantum computing superiority over classical computing for most practical applications. And that's the time when we think commercial customers will start showing interest in quantum computing in their data centers. Interesting, right? So Rigetti Computing CEO coming back at NVIDIA and Meta Platforms, their CEOs were talking about 15, 20, maybe 30 years before we get useful quantum computers. Rigetti CEO saying maybe 5 years from now, we'll have useful quantum computers. Now, the CEO was just talking about superiority over classical or practical applications, not really talking about cost and practicality in implementation. The implementation is going to be different. And also the CEO saying that this is when they'll start to show interest. Meaning right now they're not even showing any interest in quantum computing. Maybe 5 years from now, they'll start to show some interest. They'll make some phone calls, they'll ask some questions, and maybe they'd be willing to test some of their products. Maybe they'd be willing to do some research on what the potential of this technology could be. But the Rigetti Computing CEO all but admitting that there won't be any interest over the next 5 years, let's say 3 to 5 years, but more likely 5 years. It looks like they're admitting that until between now and then, it's still going to be research and development. It's still going to be mostly in research labs, research institutions funded by the government, not yet in enterprise, not yet in business. So a bit of a difference there, 5 year window compared to 15 to 20 to 30-year window. And when you're dealing with such technology, there is a wide variance, right? It could be anything between 5 years and 30 years from when we get useful quantum computers. Useful in the sense that businesses will be using it for everyday applications. That's the way I consider useful, because that's the way I think it needs to be for these businesses to have enough revenue to be self-supporting so that they don't need to go back to investors and ask for more money. They can fund their operations through sales. Right now, they can't fund their operations through sales. Right now, a lot of money is going out, right? So every year, they're burning through millions and millions of dollars of capital trying to develop and improve this technology. So if they can increase the sales to businesses, then that will help support this business, and they can hire more individuals for research and development, and this technology can be around forever. So interesting comments, to be sure. And of course, these comments from Rigetti Computing didn't get the attention that the comments from Mark Zuckerberg or Jensen Huang did. And the CEO pretty much admitted that, like, my voice is not going to matter very much when you compare it to someone like Jensen Huang or Mark Zuckerberg, who's got the entire financial markets in every major country in the world paying attention to what they say.
Hey everyone, if you like watching my videos, then I've added a great complimentary product just for you. I've written a book that's available for sale now that highlights my 6-step investing framework. Even if you don't follow that investing framework, just reading it and knowing how I evaluate stocks will make it a lot more interesting and informative to watch my videos. I've added the link in the description below.